Since it seems like the human condition to be judgmental of others, how can we work that in our favor? If we're not going to get rid of it entirely, is there a way to make it work for us rather than against us? This is Season 3, Episode 10 of Unhurried. Season 3, Episode 10. That's kind of awesome.
It's really cool.
Definitely got some momentum here. Ryan Viramontes is right here next to me. I'm Doug Kyle. And today we want to go a little deeper into this idea of judging. How are we supposed to look at judging? It's something that's just a human problem. I think I don't know anyone that doesn't fall prey to it. I think there's reasons for that I'm going to get to in this podcast. But it's part of this current podcast series where we're looking at stuff I wish Jesus never said. And this is one of them. Do not judge. That part, I think most people are comfortable with him saying that. There's nothing too shocking about that. It's what he said after that. After that, he added, or you too will be judged. And suddenly this is a very convicting statement because we realize, hey, this is just what I'm so easily can go there.
Yeah.
So quickly can go there.
Yeah. I thought we were talking about the other people, not myself.
Yeah, I love that for other people. Yeah, I love that. Do not judge. You shouldn't judge. Don't judge me for sure.
Right.
But then when it starts to, look at myself, then I'm a little bit uncomfortable with it. So we're going to get into that a little bit today. That was kind of a follow-up to what we talked about in the message this past Sunday. But if you did or didn't hear it, this is still going to be, I think, a great discussion. And glad you guys are joining us online, either audio or video. You're with us. Great to have you along. But we have a big announcement today. I'm very excited about this. Yeah, we need the music.
I know. I need some horns.
Yeah. We are going to do in about a month, we're going to do a live audience podcast.
Yeah.
So we're inviting you, our listeners, to join us. If you're local in San Diego, have a chance to join us on Monday, April 20th.
Yep.
At 7 p.m. here at Green Valley Church. We're going to do it, and we're just invite you. It's going to be a party. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
You'll get to see behind the scenes what we do, how it happens. We'll get you involved if you want to be involved, or you can just watch. We have some refreshments and maybe some giveaways. It'll be really fun.
Yeah, I'm so excited. You did one the first season.
I did. Yeah,
and that's when I wasn't on the podcast, which I've been trying to be off it now for a while.
That was before Ryan. That's before we got good. That was back in the early rough. We call those the rough years. The middle. That was the Middle Ages, sort of like the. Those were the top years. That was the top year. But then we got better. You joined us and we got better.
That's hilarious that you say that because we literally talked to somebody on Sunday about the podcast and he hadn't listened yet. And so I was like, listen to the first season. Yeah. Skip everything else after that. Listen to it on the fourth season when you have a new co-host.
No. Not at all. So, but this is going to be very different. The first year we were just just getting our feet wet in this podcast world, and it was just a handful of people around a round table. It was kind of fun to have them interacting with the podcast, but this is going to be totally different. I'm very excited about this.
Yeah, me too.
Hope you can, April 20th, just go ahead and plan on it now. Circle the calendar. If you've got plans, cancel them so you can be with us.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Cancel your plans.
Right. Yeah, it's going to be great. But anyway, before we get going, I have a question for you, Ryan.
Sure.
So last week we asked our listeners and viewers to let us know if they listen outside of the San Diego area.
Yes.
And we got some response to that. I got the most exotic description of someone listening to our podcast came to me this last weekend. Someone told me that they just got back from a Hawaiian vacation. This couple in our church, their parents took the kids. It was just a great time. The two of them off to the Big Island, and they were. I go, how was it? And the wife said to the husband, "Oh, tell them about our trip up to the volcano." What's that? we listened to the podcast on the way up. I'm going, really? Of all that's cool. Amazing. Yeah. You're on your way up to the top of the volcano on the Big Island, and you're listening to the podcast there.
That is really cool.
So that's got to be the most exotic, picturesque, esque place that anybody listened to it. Also, someone responded. They're listening in Texas.
Nice.
Which is, great. Thank you for letting us know that. Couple that used to go to our church now lives there, and they're avid listeners from Texas. Mm-hmm. So good for them. Yeah. Shout out to the two of them. But here's the question I have for you. Because I did research on this.
Okay.
What state is most represented besides California? Because obviously San Diego being the primary place, so we have listeners out there, number of smattering of places around California. But outside of California, and I want you to guess here, and not internationally because we know we have a global following. Right. When I did the research here, Switzerland showed up a number of places. So either our Swiss friends are listening in different places around Switzerland, or they've spread the word.
Yeah. Hey,
because we've got like several. Now, just to be clear, we don't know who you are listening, but our analytics can tell us what city that people are listening in. So my question, I've got the top 10, but why don't you guess what, outside of California being number one, clearly, what do you think is the next one, number 2, the second to California? Which state?
Mm-hmm. Ooh, that's interesting. Texas
is on the list. Okay. But it's not number 2.
It's not the next state, huh? Mm-hmm. Wow. I don't know.
I mean, I don't think you're ever going to guess, but I just, thought this would be fun to have you even theorize.
Because I'm trying to think of like people who might know us that might have moved now, but still, feel connected, North Carolina.
So that it's Virginia.
Virginia. Okay.
Virginia.
Yeah.
So, pardon me.
No worries.
Virginia in the Ashburn area.
Okay.
Don't know who that is.
Yeah.
But they had a lot of hits.
Really?
Right. So.
Well, hello, Virginia.
Yeah. So hello.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So I don't know who that, but if that's you, let us know.
Yeah, let us know.
We want to know.
That would be cool.
Number 2.
Yeah. Okay.
What do you think of after that? You said Texas. It's on the
list. I said Texas, North Carolina.
No, North Carolina.
Tennessee?
No.
Oh, okay. I'm trying to think of like Arkansas.
No, Arkansas.
Okay, well, then I'm lost.
At least not in the last 6 months. This is only last 6 months, so this is kind of more recent listeners. Number 3 was Nevada.
No, okay. I was gonna say either Nevada or New Mexico.
Yeah, and Nevada, that's impressive because it's not that big of a populated state.
No, it's not.
So we got some Nevada listeners.
Nice.
That's number 3. Number 4 is Colorado.
Okay.
Number 5 is Texas. So Texas, there's a couple different places.
Okay.
Utah after that.
Really?
Florida was 7. Georgia, the Atlanta area was 8.
Nice.
Arizona, I thought that might be my relatives, but it was Tucson area, which is not where they live. So
did you call them and be like, "Hey, do you listen to my podcast?" They're like, "No."
I know they don't. So this is the thing. I know they don't because there's no hits in the Phoenix area where they live. So, don't tell me you listen because I've got data. Yeah.
I have the facts.
Yes, exactly. So, and then Louisiana, New Orleans.
Oh, that's cool.
Rounded out number 10. So, so we do have some internet. I mean, around the states listeners, and some international as well.
Yeah. Well, that's cool.
Yeah. So if I mentioned your state, would you let us know if you wouldn't mind? Give us a text or email at unhurriedpodcast@gmail.com, or let us know on the YouTube comments. We'd love to know if I didn't mention you. You can let us know too.
Yeah. If your state has not been properly represented.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. So let us know, and we'll give you a shout out as well. All right. We've last week we told people how they could win the puck. Do you want to go over that again?
Yes. So starting this year, right? So we can start in January, like not in the past. But if you've been to a hockey game this year, send us a picture of yourself at said hockey game. It could either be, it could either be a mites game, it could be a kids hockey game.
Yeah.
Or it can be, a recreational hockey game, or it can be a professional game or semi-professional.
Like maybe your game.
I'm just saying, I'm just throwing it out there.
Yeah. It could be yours.
It could be mine.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
We're not begging for fans, but kind of are.
It's always nice to, show people, you're like, oh, I can play hockey. That's kind of cool. So.
All right, so we need a photo of them.
Yes, a photo of yourself at said hockey game.
Right, and you can, that again, you can show it to us in person, or you can send it to the Gmail account.
Yep.
And we will enter you in a drawing.
Yep. To get a puck with our faces on it. So,
there you go. Who doesn't want that? Who doesn't want to slap our faces as hard as they can with a hockey stick?
Right? That list is probably longer than the list of people who live in different states that listen to the podcast.
You want to name the top 50 people that would like to? Yeah, that's a much longer list.
Much longer.
Yeah, that's awesome. All right. Well, we look forward to hearing from you on that. Today we're going to talk about judgmental much. What do we do with this natural human tendency to judge others, to be judgmental? It seems to be part of the human condition.
Mm-hmm.
After Sunday's message, I talked about this, and I had so many people say to me, like, I don't think anybody didn't need to hear that. It's just so we're all, and I said, well, of course not. I needed to hear it, so I'm guessing that there are others too, but it's just something that every one of us seems to struggle with, being judgmental. A couple weeks ago, we were talking about worry, and we said, well, there are a few people that, a smaller subset of people they don't really worry much, whereas not everybody worries, but most people do. But this is one of those things I think everybody does. Mm-hmm. Everybody judges.
Mm-hmm.
It's.
I'm kind of glad you brought that up, because I got some very loving feedback from that podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Because
about worry.
Okay. Because my wife was like, you made it seem like you never worry about things.
Yeah.
And I do worry about things.
Yes.
I just, most of the things that I don't get caught up too much in the little worries. Yeah. I'll worry about the big things, but the little worries I tend to just roll with the punches. I just want that to be clear. I'm not some like superhuman that never worries about anything.
Leave it to our wives to point out that. Yeah. So nice. Well, now we're talking about being judgmental.
Yes.
So maybe you can circle that one back.
It was constructive.
Yeah, it was constructive. Yeah. Well, yeah, I think this topic, I can't imagine anyone who doesn't fall into this category. And the reason is, I think there's good reason for that. And that is that part of it is this God-given sense of right and wrong, this God-given conscience that we have each been given. Because God's planted in us this sense of right and wrong, and that's built into every person. I guess unless you're a psychopath, you have this sense of right and wrong. Then that's what triggers this judgmentalism. We go, that seems wrong, or that seems right, and it kind of springs up within us. So I think that's the reason that we do it, is for a good reason. The problem is that it's always now filtered through our kind of self-centered perspective.
Mm-hmm.
So because of sin, now we don't do it well like we would have done it apart from our sin nature. So since it's the human condition to be judgmental of others, how can we work that in our favor? Since I don't think we're going to get rid of it, partly because it is built into us by God, how can we make that tendency in us build us up spiritually rather than be a detriment to us?
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm going to end with a killer quote that you won't want to miss. Any
Nice.
guesses on who the quote is by?
Let me guess.
Any idea?
C.S. Lewis?
Wow. How did you guess that? It is a good one, though. I mean, I got to say, all of this is good, but this
Survey says.
This one, C.S. Lewis. This is going to be I'm going to save it to the end, but honestly, you don't want to miss this one. This is really, really and fantastic. Well, the passage we dealt with, I already mentioned, is Matthew 7:1. Do not judge, or you too will be judged. The human condition is that we are all prone to do this. It's built into us by God, this sense of right and wrong, truth and error, good and bad. This instinct is God-given, but we always seem to twist it. The problem is that we see it through a self-centered lens. As I said in the message, our judgment glasses are smudged, and so we're not seeing things clearly. So is there a trick to since we're not going to get rid of it entirely, is there a trick to make this work in our favor spiritually? Well, I think there's a hint when you look at the very next verse, right after verse 1 of chapter 7, where it says, Jesus says, "Do not judge, or you will be judged." He says this: "For in the same way you judge others, you will be judged, and with the measure you use, it will be measured to you." And I want to focus in on that word "same." In the same way you judge others. The problem is we don't judge ourselves in the same way we judge others. We have this double standard. Mm-hmm. We tend to elevate and amplify the flaws of others, where we tend to overlook and maybe discount our own flaws.
Yeah,
we have this double standard,
mm-hmm.
much harsher on other people than we are on ourselves. And so I think we need to, first of all, just recognize that we have this double standard problem. And Jesus used a very, I think, cartoonish example to make this point. He talks about, why are you looking at the speck in your brother's eye when you have a log, a plank in your own eye? You have this 2x4, and you're worried about this tiny speck
mm-hmm.
in your brother's eye. First, he says, take out the speck first take out the plank in your own eye, and then you'll be able to see better to take the plank out of your brother's eye. And so he's saying that we have this double standard where we have this plank-sized tolerance for our own sins. We seem to allow for enormous problems in our life that we tend to overlook, and yet we are very the most minute flaw in someone else, we're going to notice it and point it out. We have a lot of tolerance for ourselves, very little tolerance for others. We're very patient with ourselves, very critical of other people. We allow for all kinds of grace and understanding with our own problems, but not as much for others. Does that kind of make sense?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Well, you can give yourself a little bit of grace that is not there when you're dealing with other people, and either you're working with them or people in your family or things like that, or people you come across in the community. It's like, your patience for them is practically non-existent.
Yeah.
And your patience for yourself is way more.
We're so understanding of our own.
Yes, we are.
We can rationalize it, we can justify it, we can explain how in that situation, it kind of made sense. We're very gracious with ourselves, and often less so with others.
Yes.
And so I'm saying is, rather than just say I'll never be judgmental, because I think that's probably unrealistic. I think we just need to balance the judgment. If we would just simply give the same judgment that we give with others, that we give to ourselves, we would be moving in the right direction. Mm-hmm. That seems to be what Jesus is saying. The same judgment you use on others will be used on you. That's the proper scale. Do it the same way, and yet we never do. Mm-hmm. We tend to have amplified grace for us and very little grace for others. Mm-hmm. So I think that's what Jesus is getting at. And so we need to just balance the judgment. And I think there's 3 ways that we do this, and 3 benefits when we do it. First of all, if we tend to say, I'm going to look at my own life in the same level of judgment as I look at others, then suddenly we're dealing with the problem that we can really solve, which is us.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when we think of it this way, suddenly now it turns back on us, which is what Jesus was saying anyway. He's saying first deal with the plank in your own eye. I can't do anything probably, about the way that guy drives on the freeway. That's bugging me.
Right.
Nothing I can do. There's nothing I can really do. But if it bugs me and I start to ask myself, when do I do that or something like that, I'm now dealing with something that can change, someone I can change, namely me, rather than with someone else. So it deals with what I can really change when I balance the judgment between me and them. I can't really change how the guy drives or how that media personality thinks, but I can change me, and I can ask myself, what is it about that bothers me so much, and is there something in me that is similar in the same way?
Right.
So the way I talked about in the message was, let it sort of be a prompt to ask yourself, where does that show up in me? Is there a place where that same situation shows up in me, and I'm not dealing with it well, like God wants me to. Jesus wants us to look in the mirror first. We tend to just go around with binoculars, looking at everybody else, but not really asking ourselves the question, is there anything in my life that I need to work on that this reveals?
Yeah, well, you said a good point too during the message, like with driving, that you that you were saying, like you made a face or something, or you make a face and that Cindy knows the face that you make, like
what is wrong with you?
Yeah,
face.
The what is wrong with you face. Yeah. And it's true. It's like we kind of do jump to really fast conclusions with others, and we don't always look at how they got there or what led up to this decision or how things from their perspective might be different from ours.
Yeah. And so it's helpful to just first turn it on me.
Yes.
Because we're going to catch ourselves being judgmental. And that would be just such a healthy spiritual exercise if I quickly turn that on me rather than about them. Right. And said, maybe that's not an area I struggle with. Maybe they're doing something and I'm going, that's actually, something one of the few things I'm doing kind of well in. But it still kind of leads to something else. You kind of it kind of ends up pointing to, you go, yeah, maybe not that, but in this environment, I would be inclined to do that too.
Right, exactly. Yeah, we've all been tired. We've all been, not feeling great, or, stuff at work or life is just overwhelming, and you do something that's, kind of dumb, while you're out in front of others or something. Yeah. And so it's like, we've all been there. We've all said things we didn't mean to really say, or, and yet, like you were saying earlier, it's like we give ourselves so much grace. We should adapt that same, attitude towards others, and kind of say, okay, maybe they're not at their best right now.
Yeah. So, that's right. That's right. So the first thing is we deal with what we can change. When we use the same judgment and say, whatever I'm judging them with, I'm going to judge myself with, we use the same judgment. The Bible says that it's now's the time for us to judgment to begin, and it should begin with us, because if we judge ourselves now, we won't be judged in the future. So this is a really healthy process for us to be really evaluating kind of what am I doing and how am I thinking about things and how am I approaching things that may not be in line with how God wants me to do it or look at it. It may not be healthy for the community I live in. Yeah, and just let it be a prompt. Where does this show up in me? That's the first benefit. It deals with what we can really change. The next benefit is that we will then be more tolerant of others. If we start with ourselves and we give it the same judgment rather than amplified for them and little for me, but when I start to look and ask myself, where does that show up with in my life, I realize that it's a lot more complicated than I'm making it into a simple right and wrong. And sometimes it's a lot more complicated. When I start to go, yeah, I do that, suddenly I'm realizing, well, there's a lot of factors involved, and it is a lot more nuanced than the way I was dealing with this individual, and I'm going to be tolerant of others because I realize, like you're saying, I've been impatient, I've been tired, I've been, spent, I've been at the end of my day, I've been rushed, I've been on important things that meant I needed to kind of race through the traffic. There have been times in my life too when I could. I realize it's a lot more complicated than I'm making it seem, and it gives me grace for other people.
Right. Well, on Sunday too, I thought it was great because you said that having that view of quickly judging others is dangerous because you don't allow for any growth, you don't allow for any restoration or redemption, in that person. You've just completely written them off and going, this is the way they always are, instead of getting to a place of common ground and saying, listen, we've all been there, right? We've all been, like all the examples, we've all been overtired, we've all been this or that or whatever. I have a newborn at home, I've got newborn brain, like whatever it is, you know what I mean? We've all been there, you know, but that viewpoint of quickly judging others, it's just dangerous. It leaves. It's not the Christ story in any of us, which is redemption.
Yes. Yeah. And God sees us as these rich, complicated, unique individuals with all these factors going into everything we do, and we tend to just make other people these stick figures that are they call it a straw man, where you make them this flat person that doesn't have all these kinds of pressures and complications and things that they're dealing with as well. Which gives us a lot more grace and understanding, I think, the way that we would see ourselves.
Yes, for sure. Yeah.
And the way God sees us, for sure.
Yeah, very much so.
Today I'm driving the VW bus. I got it here at church, and we have two cars. So Cindy primarily drives our other car that gets us around in a normal way, and then I drive the slow VW bus sometimes. And I can be so judgy when I'm driving the bus because you have to slow down. You're not going quickly. It takes a while to shift from first to second, and you're going from stop to go. It's going to be a little bit of a process. It goes 0 to 60 eventually. It takes there's no stopwatch when you get to 60. That's for sure. And then people they'll be on their way somewhere and they'll get behind me, and you can just see their eyes roll, and they're like, oh my gosh, and they got to get around me, and they just kind of dart around me, and it's easy for me to go, maybe you should just slow down a little bit. Maybe it's not the worst thing to we're going to get to that stoplight at the same, eventually we're going to both be stopped at that stoplight a block from here.
Right.
Is there any reason to go so quickly? And I can kind of be judgy of them when I'm driving that. But then I'm driving our other car.
Sure.
And I get behind a slow vehicle, and I'm kind of racing around. And it makes me think, I go, you know what, Doug, you do the exact same thing.
Right.
Why, so now I have more grace for others, tolerance for others when they're doing that, because I go, well, yeah, if I had a little more speed in my car, a little more acceleration, I would probably be doing the same thing.
Right. Yeah. Evie on long drives gets really impatient, really, really impatient.
Yeah.
She just does not like, if the drive is longer than 25 minutes, 30 minutes tops, she's just not a happy camper.
Yeah.
She doesn't like, reading a book or looking out the window, or the playlist isn't right. It's like she'll find something wrong with the drive, And so, we've started this thing where, because she always asks, when are we going to get there? Are we almost there? How much time until we get there? Like, it's just constant, right? Yeah. She constantly needs the reassurance, of a long drive, right? So we've started this thing where she goes doodles, which means, because I got so tired of her asking the same question all the time, right? So instead we started this new thing, and I go, let's just make it a little more playful, okay? I said, so she says doodles, and then I say poodles, which means that it's longer than 30 minutes that we still have to drive.
So that's her question.
That's her question.
Doodles?
She goes, doodles? And I go, poodles.
What if it's less than 30 minutes?
Then I'll say, oh, she'll go doodles, and I'll go, oh, you know what? 18 minutes.
Oh, okay.
And I feel like at that point she goes, oh, okay, I can handle 18 minutes, but in the sense of like the patience, right? It puts your mind in a different perspective where you go, listen, it's going to be a while. We're going to get there. We might run into a VW bus on the way.
Yeah, you might get behind Doug. Heaven forbid.
Heaven forbid we get behind Doug in the bus today.
Poodles, for sure.
Poodles. Poodles, doodles, and noodles at that point. You know what I mean?
I'm putting poodles on the back of my bus.
You should.
I'm just going to put poodles. It'll be like... It's going to be a long time. You're behind Doug, so just, chill.
Yeah, you're going to need to chill. But I do think it puts, like what we were talking about earlier. I know it's silly, and I know my daughter's 6, so maybe we're not going to be doing this when she's 16. But I'm just saying, it in the same way our Heavenly Father deals with us and how
I love that
impatient
story.
we can
so
be.
Good.
Right?
Doodles and poodles.
Yeah, doodles and poodles.
Everybody in the car knows what that means.
Yeah.
It's like she's just going doodles, poodles.
Yep. And that means it's going to be longer than we still have longer than 30 minutes to get there. And if it's not, then I go, oh look, it's 15 minutes. I just looked at the map. It's 15 minutes.
So as you think about the rest of this podcast.
Sure.
Doodles?
Poodles.
Okay. All right. Just wanting people out there to know what they're in store for.
Actually, I don't know. I just hit record.
I don't know. We'll see.
We'll see.
We'll see. It could be poodles. We don't know.
Sorry. I meant that was silly, but I'm just saying in the same sense that our Heavenly Father deals with our impatientness.
Yes.
Right. And how patient he is with us.
Yeah.
It just time and time again, he gives us oodles of grace.
Right. Oodles.
That's pretty funny. I just walked into that. I didn't even think of that. I just walked into that one. You know what I mean? But, he gives us so much patience.
Yeah.
And yet we don't treat each other that way at all.
That's so good. Yeah, I love that. That's a great. I've never heard that before. That's such a clever thing to do with your daughter there. I think that's such a great picture because God, He's just so merciful with us and accommodating and takes time to explain and work with us. Just think about the blind spots and the sins and the failures in our own life that God has just been working on for a long time, and we're hopefully making some progress, but it still keeps showing up a little bit, and God, like a good father, is like, how about this? Maybe this will get through to you, and continues to give us new ways to work through our impatience or whatever it is, and yet someone else does it, and we have zero capacity to give them some time to work on it either.
For sure.
So that's a great illustration about that. We will be more tolerant of others when we realize that they are complicated individuals like us. If we've seen it, if we've looked in the mirror first, if we do the same judgment for us as we do for them, and we start with us, we're going to be for sure more tolerant.
Yeah.
Because we'll see them as people that are in process like we are. That's so good. Well, the third thing is, and the final thing that the benefit is that we can then distinguish between the flaw and the person. When we're just jumping to snap judgments, we're going to immediately judge the person as much as we judge the behavior or the thinking or whatever it is that we have a problem with. We're going to immediately attach that to the person, and now that person is an idiot, or that person is a maniac, or that person is making foolish judgments or whatever it is. We'll immediately do that. But when we start with ourselves, and when we go through the process of first evaluating ourselves and then offering grace to them, seeing them as a complicated individual in process, suddenly we're able to distinguish between the flaw and the person. We said this early on, and I emphasize in the message too, there is really a thing as truth and error, good and bad, right and wrong, evil and good. All those things are true. And so when we're making judgments, we may be making a judgment about something that truly is displeasing to God, dishonoring to God, or unhelpful to the community and the society or the traffic or whatever it is. We could be making a good evaluation, but this process, when we do the same for ourselves, it helps us distinguish between the behavior and the person, the flaw and the person. And this is where I have a C.S. Lewis quote.
There you go.
So here it comes. C.S. Lewis deals with this. You've heard the expression, love the sinner, hate the sin.
Yes.
Hate the sin, love the sinner, whichever way you want to say it. So that's been around for a long time. C.S. Lewis, who was writing back in the middle of the 20th century, 75 years ago, he was dealing with, he says, I've heard this expression, and he was dealing with the idea of like, well, how do we do that? How do we hate the sin but love the sinner? That seems so hard to do, and when we're being judgmental, we're not.
Right.
We have a problem with the sin, and even if we're seeing it correctly and rightly, we immediately now have a problem with the sinner, with the person themselves. And so here's what C.S. Lewis writes, and just tell me this in mere Christianity and doesn't just ring true. He says, I remember Christian teachers telling me long ago that I must hate a bad man's actions, but not hate the bad man. Or as they would say, hate the sin, but not the sinner. I used to think this is silly, straw-splitting distinction. This is a silly, straw-splitting distinction. How could you hate what a man did and not hate the man? So he's raising this really good question. It's hard to distinguish between the two. If you have a problem with what they do, then you immediately have a problem with them. And we get all bothered by the person. He goes on to kind of explain that. He says, but years later, it occurred to me that there was one man to whom I had been doing this all my life, namely myself. And he goes on to say, however much I might dislike my own cowardice or conceit or greed, I went on loving myself. There had never been the slightest difficulty about it. In fact, the very reason that I hated the thing was that I loved the man. Just because I loved myself, I was sorry to find that I was not the sort of man who did those things. So he was saying we can easily do this with ourselves. We can easily distinguish between the sin and the sinner. We love ourselves. God planted that in us. The self-love is self-preservation. All of that is given to us by God. We love the person, but we're still bothered by the sin in our lives. And we're very easily able to distinguish between me as a person and those flaws that I have. Make a distinction. So since we can do it for ourselves, what if we started doing that for others too?
Yeah.
We started to treat others, love others like we love ourselves, as Jesus said. What if we started to do that? And I think this happens when we balance the scales, when we make judgment the same. The way I judge myself, I'll judge others, which means I'm very patient with who I am, even though I may be impatient with the areas that I'm still working on and growing. And to me, that was really helpful to kind of pull that together, thinking about that statement, hate the sin, but love the sinner.
Yeah. Well, and I also think too, Jesus just paints just such a beautiful picture of what that really looked like. Back then, he talked to, we have the records in the Bible of all of the different people of who he talked to from different walks of life, and people who in that time were considered to be outcasts and less than, and you never talked to them, or you never tell a story about a Samaritan. And yet he did. You know what I mean? He did all those things, and he painted that picture for us, and he loved the sinner, disliked and hated the sin.
Yes.
But still loved them, and loves us just the same, you know? And so, it's just not a godly way of living to be so quick to judge.
Yeah, and quick to identify it. If there's a bad belief or a bad behavior, then they're a bad person.
Right.
I don't like the person either.
Right.
That's just 2026 culture. It's just the way we tend to operate. And Jesus had the capacity to distinguish between the sin and the sinner.
Right.
And we do too with ourselves.
Yes.
Most of the time.
Yeah.
I mean, we can get hard on ourselves.
Sure,
And I'm mad at myself too.
Right.
But usually we're mad at the sin
right.
in our lives. We want to get rid of that, but we still have a lot of self-respect
Yes.
for ourselves
Yeah.
and hope for ourselves of getting better.
Sure.
There was you just reminded me of this, just thinking about the individuals Jesus met. There was the woman caught in adultery.
Yeah.
And, obviously her behavior was bad. It was displeasing to God. It messed up families and all kinds of ramifications that were bad. But Jesus was able to distinguish between the sin and the sinner. And he was able to meet her and say, neither do I condemn you.
Mm-hmm.
Go and sin no more.
Mm-hmm.
And in that beautiful balance there, he was able to say the sin is unacceptable, but I'm not condemning you.
Mm-hmm.
Because he didn't come to condemn, he came to save.
Right.
And he cared about the person beyond the sin, and that's why he came for us too,
Mm-hmm.
because he cared about us beyond our own sin, flaws, and failures. And so it's a beautiful thing that Jesus was able to do. And I think when we work through this process of dealing with our own sin first, giving grace to others the same way we give it to ourselves, and then being able to distinguish between the flaw and the person, suddenly we're moving closer in the way that God wants us to be on this.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I love I can't remember the last quote that you had on Sunday. I can't remember who it was by.
There was
I can't remember now.
Yeah.
Darn it! I should have written it down.
No, I mean I know what you're talking about too, and for someone will remind us probably
Right,
when
right.
we do, or I just look at I'll look at my notes right now.
Yeah.
Because it won't take me long to get there. I know exactly what you're talking about. It was talking about the 3 things we don't know.
Yes.
When
yes.
when we judge someone else.
Yes.
The 3 things we don't know. It was F.B. Meyer.
Yes.
F.B.
yes.
Meyer.
I love this quote. Yeah.
Yeah. He said there were 3 things that we don't know whenever we see a person who's caught in sin. First, we don't know how hard he or she tried not to sin.
Mm-hmm.
Secondly, we do not know the power and the forces that assailed him or her. And third, we do not know what we would have done in the same circumstances.
Yes.
We don't know those things.
No,
and
we
that
don't.
gives us grace when we think about it that way.
Yes. Well, hindsight is always 20/20, right? So it's like you can look at somebody and go, "Oh, well, that's not how I would have done it."
Yeah.
Or that's not how I would have handled that situation. And it's like we don't know that. You know what I mean? Like they're in that situation right then and there, and
Mm-hmm.
that's the way that they decided that and how they got there, or what it took them not to get there.
Yes.
You know what I mean? That's not the point for us. You know what I mean? The point is to show love, to show grace, the same that we do for ourselves, you know,
Mm-hmm.
in the same way that Jesus exampled that for us,
Mm-hmm.
you know, to save lives, not to condemn them.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's convicting stuff. I'm if anybody thinks I'm speaking to them, you're
I'm right here.
Yeah. You're I'm speaking to you, Ryan.
Thank you.
Mostly I'm speaking to myself because I'm speaking to all of us. This is just
Yes.
human nature.
Yes,
This is
it
where
is.
we all live. And
Yes.
like I said, everybody after the message came up to me and said, well, I don't think anybody didn't need to hear that.
Right.
You know, because we all do.
Yes. Very much so.
Yeah. So, helpful way to think about how to balance judgment in our lives so that we start with ourselves, as Jesus indicated. We've invited listeners to ask questions.
Yeah.
And someone asked a question about
Nice.
something that we said last week when we were talking about the idea of that when Jesus said you need to hate your mother and father,
Mm-hmm.
and how do we balance that with the one of the 10 commandments that says honor your father and mother. And the question was related to that, one of the 10 commandments. The question was this, said, I've seen it numbered as the 4th and the 5th commandment, honor your father and mother. Why? Why is it sometimes listed as the 4th commandment, sometimes as the 5th commandment, and which is right?
Yeah.
Was the question. So that was a very careful listener who was talking about that because we hear it both. Sometimes it's the fifth commandment, sometimes it's the fourth. Why is that? And here's the answer. The answer to that is the 10 commandments are not numbered in the Bible. So it'd be really easy if, when we read about it in Exodus, and then in Deuteronomy and the other places it was listed, if they said the first one is, the second one is, there's just 10 listed, but they're not numbered. And so some individuals, they group what we would maybe consider the first two commandments, no other God and no idols, have no idols, as one commandment. Which makes sense. Those kind of sound like the same commandment. You should have no other gods before me and no idols. So there's some that count that as the first commandment. Others say that is number 1 and number 2. So that makes a difference. Is that one commandment or 2 commandments? Now, if you make it 2 commandments, then you get to the end of the 10 commandments, and you have to combine 2 of them.
Right.
You can't say 11 because the Bible does say there were 10. It calls them 10 words or 10 commandments. It says that there's 10 of them, but then it doesn't tell us their numbers, which one. So if you divide those into 2, then the last one has to be condensed into 1, and if you make those 1, then the last one has to be, split out into 2. So the last commandment is you shall not covet your neighbor's wife or covet your neighbor's goods. Some see that as the same commandment. It just all falls under the commandment of do not covet, and others see it as 2 commandments, number 9 and number 10. So because of that, whichever way you divide it up, it means the ones in the middle, 2 through 9, end up in different spots based on whether you add an extra one at the front end, or if you split the first 2 or you split the last 2, whichever way it is. So they're the same commandments. There's no different. Everybody agrees what these commandments are. It's just whether how you group them.
Right.
So that's why sometimes the commandment, you shall honor your father and mother, is seen as the 4th, and sometimes it's seen as the 5th. That would be true, actually, of all the commandments in between. They can be one up or one down based on how you start the list. If you start with the first 2 as being 1 or the first 2 as being 2. Same commandments, just different numbering system. In the Jewish system, the Catholic system, some Protestants tend to do it one way, other Protestants tend to do it a different way, and it's it's like, I don't know, there's no real difference. It's just which ones you group together.
Right. Yeah.
So I said in my message, I said the 4th. I called it the 4th one, but actually now that this question was brought to my attention, I actually think I prefer making it the 5th one.
Ooh.
So I would say I think both work, depending on which context you're looking at it. But good catch by our listener.
Yeah, that's a great catch.
It was a great catch, and in the future I think I will probably refer to it as the 5th commandment, because I like the way that I like having do not covet as one commandment rather than splitting that into 2.
Right.
That makes more sense to me. But either one works. Both have been, are legitimate ways to look at it from a Christian perspective.
Yeah, I think that's great. Yeah.
So that was an interesting question.
Yeah. When you said the 4th, I kind of, I think mentally I was like, okay.
Yeah.
Like I follow along of how it's going.
Yeah.
And then I was like, I think that's the way I've always heard it.
Yeah.
But maybe, I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I would go with the 5th now.
Yeah.
No, but I think you, like we said, it can go either way.
Yeah. I like that.
All right. Well, I think it's doodles.
I think we're done.
I think it's oodles.
I think it's oodles.
Oodles now, not poodles. It's oodles.
Oodles. I think it's oodles now.
Yeah, we're
almost done.
We're wrapping up.
We've got like a few more minutes and we're good.
All right. So just a reminder how to win the puck, the coveted hockey puck with Ryan and my face on it. It's a really nice item. I have to say that. And just send us a photo.
Yeah.
Send us a photo of you at a hockey game sometime in 2026. And we will put you in the running for that.
Yep.
I hope this has been helpful for you and encouragement in your walk, wherever you're listening. Maybe you're driving, maybe you're at home, maybe you're out and about running errands, whatever you're doing.
Walking a volcano.
Going up to the top of a volcano in Hawaii. How great is that?
Yeah.
Or maybe you're in Texas and whatever, fighting hurricanes or storms or
whatever's going on in Texas.
Whatever's going on there weather-wise. Maybe it's beautiful there. Who knows? Hope this has been an encouragement to you. Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you, Doug.
To our enthusiastic viewers and listeners, thank you for following along. Until next time, this has been Unhurried with me, your host, Doug Kyle, and I look forward to talking soon.